Texas?
Yes,
Is that
sir.
correct?
Yes.
You're now recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. There's been a lot of talk today about inspections, and I guess we'll ask, or I'll ask Admiral Z and Mr. Rusko, had the Deepwater Horizon been inspected the day before the blowout, would y'all have, do you think y'all would have caught something that would have stopped it? You know, my reading of the reports were there were a series of bad events that happened and bad decisions that were made and troubles associated with setting cement that deep underwater. Had all the inspections in the world been conducted, do you think the result would have been different and there wouldn't have been the blowout?
One area of particular concern was the gas detection system had been muted, which would not have provided perhaps adequate warning that there had been a release of gas to perhaps earlier attempt to shut that well in. But that would have been detected during an inspection. Some of the other, the electrical systems, the life-saving systems that we would check would not have had any impact on the outcome of this. But some of the inherent, especially these remote sensors that would detect a presence of gas,
might have given us a little more time.
That may have provided us a little bit more window of time.
Mr. Rusko, do you have anything to add?
I think that I can't say that it could have been prevented had there been an inspection the day before. But what I can say is that Interior recognizes that its inspection process needs to be improved, both in terms of applying risk-based standards for when and how to inspect, and they're working to change their inspection process. We are in the process of evaluating that, and we can report out on that.
Thank you. And the United States is not the only country developing oil and gas in the Gulf of Mexico. You're seeing an increase in Mexico, and now Cuba is starting to be involved in that. The way the currents work in the Gulf of Mexico, I represent the Gulf Coast, from Corpus Christi, Texas to Brownsville. The currents tend to take it our way. And we suffered from years from a blowout in Mexico. How is the Coast Guard prepared, if at all, to deal with a spill taking place in waters of another country and in a completely foreign-controlled situation?
We are working multilaterally as I speak to address concerns that we have with offshore drilling in Cuba and the Bahamas. Those currents, while not of concern to Texas, is a great concern to southern Florida and our eastern seaboard, and perhaps would make impact within 5 to 10 days of a catastrophic event. So we're already working on our area contingency plans. More importantly, what our response posture. There are some legal gaps in terms of what we would call a responsible party when in a foreign EEZ there's a release of oil that impacts the U.S. Clearly, we have our Oil Spill Liability Trust Fund, but certainly there are constraints there. And so working with that other foreign country, Cuba in particular, will be a challenge, but we are working very closely at the interagency level to address that particular concern, because that drilling effort will commence in January.
Now, under existing law, we've got technology that we couldn't share with a country like Cuba to cap a well. Is that correct?
Again, we are working with other governmental agencies. What we did learn from Deepwater Horizon, the capping stack did not exist on April 20th, on the day of that blowout. That was designed literally on the fly, as was the top hat and other intervention methods. Helix, a U.S. company, now has dynamically positioned vessels and that technology literally on the shelf. So what we need to, our concern is we want to contain that before that oil comes ashore and causes environmental and economic damage to the United States. So that information, we do want to be able to share that to protect U.S. interests.
And finally, there was a lot of talk in the media as this was going on that there were various offers of assistance from foreign governments and foreign assets that could have been brought to bear in responding, and those were either not used or turned down for a variety of reasons. How has that been addressed? Can we in the future find a way to deal with foreign companies that want to help, or are we adequately situated to do it entirely ourselves with no help?
We addressed this in our instruction. Again, this was a lesson we learned on the fly, and we stood up what we called an interagency technological assistance program that assessed every foreign offer of assistance and whether it would immediately alleviate some of the impact that we were seeing. We actually flew equipment from the Netherlands to the Gulf of Mexico. We didn't send the vessels because it would take them a month to get there. But we entertained over 67 foreign offers of assistance, and we did receive assistance from 22 countries across the globe.
So you think you may have been treated unfairly with the government or with the media on that one?
Yeah, well, I think the other part is, you do not want to be doing research and development in the midst of a spill of national significance. So having that available on the shelf would have been much more helpful for us to implement.
Well, I see my time has expired. Thank you very much for your answers.